So I'll try something here. In Texas, right? The stars and stripes are big and bright. Bucket list item number 17, check. Yes. I've always wanted to do that. So, flying in here from Detroit, that's where I'm from, Detroit, thinking to myself, you're going to Texas and talk about sustainability. How is this going to work? Now, I've given this talk all over the world, actually 27 countries. Some places, they're like, oh, this is really innovative and neat and cool. I've given this talk at the UN, neat and cool. Portugal, France, cool. Some places that go, not so much. So we'll see how this is going to go. Now, here's what I'm going to talk about today. So what challenges are we as people facing right now? What does sustainability mean to business? What are executives thinking right now? What are challenges? What are the SD goals or the sustainability goals? What are they? How do they correlate to project management and to your jobs? What does it mean to you as a PM? And what are the free tools that are available to you right now? Free stuff, yay, free stuff, right? So this is me, yay, boring. So I'm a father of two that keep me young and busy. I have 20 years of PPPM experience. I've worked for Accenture, I've worked for banks, government, been around the board. I've won some awards, yay, rah. And I've worked a lot with the UN, and I've built some standards here and there, so I stay pretty busy. That's me, yay. And then there's who's IPMA. What is IPMA? So we're the other organization. Yikes. So we were founded in back up. Trigger finger there. Oh. So we were founded in 1965, also known as Internet, but we had to give that name up because of obvious reasons. We are a member-driven federation of national associations. So the USA is one of 65 national associations. And we drive competence in project management. We have standards available, which you'll get today for free. We have alliances with many like-minded associations, and we are your partner for competence. So that's that. So we'll start off with this. How many of you wanted to be a superhero as a child? Raise your hand. Come on. Come on. Superman, Batman, Batgirl. Batgirl, no, not Batgirl. No. I was partial to Han Solo myself. Nobody? Come on, raise them high. Well, how about this? Come on, project management? How many of you as a kid go, I want to be a project manager? How do we end up here? Yeah, I want to sit in a boardroom and look at graphs and charts and stuff. That's my future. Well, here's the thing. We need superheroes. We need them. But why? Why do we need superheroes? What do you think? Anybody? We got problems, people. We got problems. We have human problems. This polar bear, he's stuck. For the past 13 years, it's been the hottest year on record every year since recorded history. That's a problem. Now you can argue, oh, it's man-made, it's not, but the fact is, it's happening. We've got pelicans covered in oil, that stinks. He didn't do it to himself. We're causing these problems over and over again. Now lessons learned show us that this happened last time, let's not do it again. How about right to education? Let's make this happen. How about the fact that our planet is covered in 3% or 3/4 water, yet in most countries, you can't drink the water. Why is this? Humans. Our planet has a human problem. It's our fault. But we can change this. Yay, us! And we're seeing increased wildfires every single year because of changes in our world. Then there's these mega trends in business that seem to correlate with some of these problems. If you take a look at some of them, our planet is under pressure. Resources are becoming more limited. Now, if you look at business and your projects, you have to cope with more limited resources becoming available. So for your projects having to fight over more resources or limited resources, what does that mean for you? Increased costs? Decreased resources? Scarcity? Is that a problem? Maybe. Localization? Urbanization? Challenges? Millennials looking for jobs? That whole challenge? It's a challenge. The growing wealth gap? Looking at, just for example, the rise of the city. 60% of the world's population will be urban by 2030. That creates increased heat. That creates a problem. So we have a lot of changes coming to our world. And so CEOs are looking at this saying, how can my business adapt for these? Disruptive business models. The number one word among CEOs right now is disruption. Uber and Airbnb. Is this a problem here in Dallas? People talking about this? I was in Johannesburg, South Africa last month, and I love Uber. I mean, the app is cool. You look it up, the car's driving around, you're like, here he comes, here he comes, here he comes. And they show up, and they pick you up, take you where you want to go. I don't got to pay him, it's gone. But the thing about Uber is, there's no regulation. It's anybody, they're all for themselves. Now, the guy picks me up and he goes, oh, please don't judge my car. I'm like, what's wrong? He goes, well, the taxi driver threw acid on my car because they don't like us. I'm like, oh, that's horrible. But the fact is, who is the next developer who's going to come up with some cool app and disrupt the next business? It's kids with these new ideas who are changing the game. And so CEOs are staying up awake saying, is my business safe? Disruption is happening all over the place. Airbnb, I was in Amsterdam last weekend, and in the city center, all the residences are hollow. People are buying up all the properties and just renting them out. So cities are now just empty shells. So what's happening? Our world is changing. Empty screen. So let's talk about sustainability. This is going to be a very, very busy slide. And I'm going to talk about a few things. One, the level of integration where companies get into the game. So how much skin in the game do you have getting into sustainability and why they do it? So first off, if a company's under crisis, we have to somehow become more sustainable. We're under crisis. Or we need to somehow become more compliant. So let's get sustainable. Or we need to optimize the resources. So let's get more sustainable. Or our competitors are doing it, so we have to do it as well. Market differentiation. Or purpose-driven. So we want to be one of the proponents or get ahead of the game. With that comes certain benefits like risk mitigation. If you fix a crisis, you're mitigating risk, right? Or asset lifecycle cost benefits. You're seeing some benefits here. Productivity increases, growth. So those are some basic drivers of sustainability. From a contextual perspective, you're looking at organizational perspective or stakeholders. This is basic stakeholder engagement. So externally, your consumers are saying, we want to see this, right? The measures you're looking at environmental, economical, and societal. But the lenses we're looking at are different. From a cultural perspective in the organization, you've got the overall organizational culture, the executive level, and then you get your silos. Now, how many of you work in an organization where you have silos or fiefdoms? I see hands going up. Yeah, the brand new CEO comes in, he's like, we're going to go this direction. And your organizational manager goes, no, we're not. You're not taking my resources away. Foot goes down, no. So the challenge is, how do you change culture of an organization? How do you get these new methods in place? How do you get the culture of an organization to change? And how do you actually get change, portfolios, programs, projects, and operations to harmonize and drive sustainable practices into an organization? That's the challenge. Well, introducing the 17 SDGs. These come out of what were the MDGs. The Millennium Development Goals expired January 1st. And they were a way to combat things such as HIV and AIDS, premature death, many aspects for sustainability that were sort of outdated. But in looking towards the future, towards like 2030, it was how can business help support sustainable development? And so looking at these, working with the UN, it was what are some things that is really important to business, and how can we transcend national barriers and help support business needs, social needs, and environmental needs that all works in harmony together? So when you look at things like no poverty, zero hunger, how can business support this? Good health and well-being. You want your staff to not be poor, right? Your project teams to not be poor, right? To not be hungry, to be healthy, to be qualified and educated, to be equal, to be clean. So these SDGs apply in many ways. And so I'm going to go through a few of them. Now, if you think to yourself, this doesn't really apply to me, these companies tend to disagree because every single one of them has signed on to say, we value these and we commit to these. Every single one. 8,000 companies have said, these SDGs are our new North Star. Now what happens if a company says, we have a new North Star, but as an employee you say, don't care? What value are you to the organization? You're not, right? So, project management therefore has to change. We have to understand the times in which we live in and adapt. We have to realize what organizational strategy is happening and where it's going. So, this is just one example. And Coca-Cola, for example. I taught a class 2 years ago. There's this guy, let's call him John. John comes in my class, and I was teaching a class on the MDGs. John says, I don't know why I'm here. Coca-Cola sent me here. I'm a project manager. My job is in bottling, blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, John, tell me about your projects. Well, my job is to make sure that the bottles are adequate and give me all these technical specs. I said, okay, fine. John, let me ask you a question. Let's just say, for example, you at Coca-Cola are responsible for creating a new beverage. Yeah. And are you aware that one of Coke's objectives is to reduce water consumption in new beverages by 40%? I didn't know that. How'd you know that? I'm like, it's on your website, John. Oh, are you a PM, John? Yeah. Well, if Coke comes to you and says, John, create a new spec for a new product, and you gave them the old formula, they're going to come back at you and say, what is this garbage? Oh. Pay attention, John. Oh, okay. So the point is, unless you understand where they're going, what the strategy is, and how it ties to these SDGs, you're lost. So it's important to understand where things are moving at. Right? You agree? Right. So there's 17 of these things. Wow, a lot to learn. So CEOs believe the SDGs provide opportunity spelled with a capital $sign. And these numbers have actually gone up in the past 2 years. 89% say commitment to sustainability is translating to real impact in their industry. That 89% has gone up from 74% just 2 years ago. That's huge. And it's not on here, but 93% believe that sustainability is a new key driver for business success. 93%. That's massive. However, 64% believe they cannot equate value with their current initiatives. So what happens when you can't equate value with an initiative? Do you scrap it? Yeah. So it's our jobs as project managers to make sure that we create value with everything we do, right? Otherwise, the project goes on the shelf and dies. It becomes project failure, right? Have I lost you? Yes, no? So why are these SDGs important? One, they lift billions of people out of poverty. That's a good thing. They strengthen education. That's a good thing. They fix and harmonize gender equality. That's a good thing, right? They ensure the global economy operates safely. It's a good thing, right? They foster accountability. That's a good thing, right? These are all great things. Do you agree? Right. So let me ask some questions. So what sectors do you guys all work in? I saw a little bit IT earlier, right? So where else? Where else? Healthcare. Great. Where else? Finance. Wonderful. Where else? Environmental. Ooh, okay. Where else? Education. Okay, well, I see you all are very much spread out here. So let's play a little game. Now, unfortunately, you're all so back inside the audience. I want to know what kind of projects you guys are working on. So a little audience participation here. I'm going to throw the ball. You guys are going to catch it, okay? Unfortunately, I'm not a soccer player, and, well, you know. So let's see. Who wants the ball? How about over here? So you're going to catch the ball, and on here is going to be one of these SDGs, okay? You're going to read one and tell me how it might relate to one of your projects, okay? Simple? Yeah? All right, here we go. Ready? Here it comes. Yay! Who's got the ball? Pick one.
We got 15, Life on Land.
Life on Land, great.
So we work for Denton Municipal Electric, and we're working on a project to roll out basically a plan to use to show 70% renewable energy. What's been by next 2019? We should be 70% renewable instead of 10% renewable. So that's what we're working on.
Fantastic. Now, is that a project KPI?
Yeah.
Does your organization do sustainability reporting?
I don't believe so. So I'm only working in the IT component of that larger project, so we are kind of a sub-project under that.
Does your sub-project reporting translate into larger reporting? So my question is, does your project reporting roll upstream into your organization's reporting to the GRI or UN Global Compact or overall sustainability reporting? Does it all correlate?
No.
It should.
You're right.
Tell the story. Tell the story.
I mean, I agree with you. We don't actually have a formal PMO there, so a lot of project management doesn't have a lot of those types of things that we're accustomed to if you've come from another shop, or enterprise PMO or even a larger PMO office. So certainly recognize what you're saying, and that's part of why we're here, is to hopefully bring some of that back.
Fantastic. You can roll it down the hill if you want.
Yeah, I was going to ask how can you throw this ball.
Good question. Do you mind tossing that up here for me? Actually, since you have it, here you go. Next. Ha-ha! See how that works? What'd you get?
Oh, sorry.
Pick a number, any number.
Well, I do airport baggage handling,
Okay.
baggage handling systems for airports, so I don't know. Interesting, okay.
Pick any number and I'll ask you a question.
Okay, how about cities? What number was that? 9.
9. Read it off.
Industry, innovation, and infrastructure.
Industry, innovation, and infrastructure. So, do you handle the actual baggage claim systems?
Yeah, we design and engineer them.
So do you actually do that for other airports, not just the one here in Dallas?
Yeah, everywhere.
So
Domestic,
how
international.
does that contribute to innovation?
How does it contribute to innovation?
And you help people get to where they need to go faster and things, right?
Absolutely.
So, for example, I was recently in Riga, Latvia, and I landed there and had to give a keynote. And the baggage system was so horrible that I got my luggage 3 days after I arrived. I had to give a keynote in a pair of jeans that I wore for 3 days. It was horrible.
I hear that a lot.
Bad news! So, as a project manager, if you could design a system where I would know where my baggage was, or even let me know, hey, it's not gonna be there on time, go buy some pants. It might be a good idea. So, there's ways, thinking about sustainability and about letting people know and being able to plan ahead, those types of things are important. So, that's all. So, anyway, that's kind of off the cuff, but thank you very much. So, anyway, so there's 17 goals, and there's a total of 169 targets we're trying to reach for. Now, again, those are very high level, but there's things as far as gender equality, and I have a few more examples here I'll walk you through. Pow. So, gender equality and empowering women and girls. This is important. Women work 70% of the world's working hours. Did you know that? Yeah. Of course you did. And only make 10% of the world's income. Ouch. Not good. Let's fix that. Actually, I wrote a blog on that 2 days ago. And actually, Abby Wambach from the U.S. women's soccer team did a really neat video about that, complaining about the U.S. women's soccer team. But we must end all forms of discrimination against women and girls everywhere. Yes? Yes. And demand equal pay for women. Now, you don't have to be a feminist to do this. It's just called being human. And ensure that women's full participation of women on boards. We have to end all male boards, right? So, as men, if you see all men being up for positions, speak up for your female counterparts. And if you have the ability to hire and fire, make sure you're hiring based on skill and not based on gender. It's as simple as that. So, innovative infrastructure. Number of humans living in cities are half. So, and this ties into climate change coming up here in a second too, but we'll get to that in a moment. So, we have to reduce the adverse per capita environmental impact of cities. Because what happens when you put lots of people inside a city? It gets very, very hot. Very hot. We have to be able to provide universal access to safe, inclusive, and accessible green and public spaces. One, because if you're producing a lot of carbon, you have to be able to offset that, right? And adopting and implementing integrated policies and plans towards inclusion, resource efficiency, mitigation, and adapting to climate change. And there's that nasty word, climate change. Some places don't like it, but the fact is the world's getting hotter. And then there's climate change. Now, we've already seen this year, 1/3 of the Great Barrier Reef is bleached out, gone. Now, we give this talk in Australia, and they were like, and believe me, Australians were like, climate change, whatever, man. But when we said, your Great Barrier Reef is 1/3 gone, they went, oh. No. Here's a photo. They were like, oh my goodness. Because they were going, yay, cold, yay. Wait, what? It's gone. Can't come back, it's dead. So we have to figure something out. And they're saying 2 degrees Celsius is the only difference. So we have to figure something out. Energy efficiency is the key. Environmental investments, good idea. GHG emissions. Risks and opportunities due to climate change. There are opportunities, financial opportunities, and organizations understand this. Companies understand that there's money to be made making the right investments. And as a project manager, we have to understand what this means to our trade, to our profession. Some countries we go to, we say it's a profession, they freak out. Luckily here in the US, we can say that, right? Thank you, Jim. Now, I want to introduce you to a little framework called the UN Post-2015 Business Engagement Architecture. It's very, very kludgy and freaky looking, so I'm going to skip past most of it and show you just this. Now, I know, it's pretty gnarly, right? It's like, what? Anyway, so on the one hand, you have sustainable development priorities, right? On the other side, you have long-term business goals. Now, as PMs, we don't think long-term. It's initiate to close, and then next, right? But inclusive growth, revenue growth are on 2 sides, right? So we have to think about, and you'll notice, is this the right one? Risk management, resource productivity, revenue growth. Those are long-term business goals that kind of go hand in hand. So we have to start thinking in that mode operandi. We have to think about long-term business goals. as project managers, in the professionalism of our craft, we have to start growing towards a more professionalism. We have to become more professionalized in our profession. Would you agree? Because more and more is being asked of us as project managers as we elevate up the corporate ladder. We're not just task managers anymore. We're being asked to do much, much more. I recall I did a project for local government in Indiana 7 years ago. And the county executive walked past my desk and he goes, I've got a problem. He said, I have to figure out a way to boost economic growth locally. And I don't know what to do. He goes, what would you do? And I'm like, not my problem, I'm the project manager. And I went home that night and I'm like, he asked me a question and I didn't give him a thoughtful answer. So I racked my brain, I went back and I wrote this full proposal. I went back and I said, here's what I'd do. And he went, all right. And I'm like, that's what we have to do. We have to become better at what we're doing. We have to think about thoughtful responses. We have to come up with business cases. We have to be able to actually respond to business needs. So, long way of saying, long-term business goals, we're here to solve problems. We're problem solvers. We're superheroes. See if it all comes back to superheroes, right? Now, I come back to saying, PMs drive everything. Everything from these wonderful, massive oil rigs in the ocean to apps on our smartphones that we all use to connect us to everybody else, to mergers and acquisitions, to these horrible sugary drinks that keep my kids awake at night, to branding and marketing initiatives, to, well, all projects of all shapes and sizes. We do them all. They're all projects. Some are big and some are small, some are complex, some are not. But we drive everything. Everything in this room you see is a result of a project. But they all have impacts. The shirt on your back, who made it? Who sourced it? Where did it come from? Was it a child in Indonesia that sewed it together? Who knows? But somebody was responsible for putting it together. And we have to start asking the questions. Who, what, when, where, why? And who was responsible? And can we put an end to things like forced child labor? And things like, are people making enough money and livable wages? Because we are the ones in control of the budgets. And we can stand up and say, as a professional, I signed a code of ethics and I'm not going to stand for that anymore. And companies are going to go, whoa, 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 whoa. For example, H&M, every back to school sale, $2 t-shirt. How in the world does a t-shirt cost $2? Think about it. How do you manufacture a shirt, market it, $2? It's impossible. Anyway, soapbox. So we need to evolve. You guys recognize this? This was from ISO 21500. Also, Chapter 3. Initiate, planning, implementing or executing, controlling, closing. Now, talk about evolution. Here's what I mean. We've been taught to live inside these walls, right? We must expand. When I mean expand, I mean we must start thinking about the business case. What happens prior to initiating? What are the benefits to be gained? And adoption. Will it be adopted? What does it look like? How many projects have you done? You can close your eyes and raise your hand if you want. How many projects have you done? Have you handed off and thought, this was awesome? And they go, meh. They put it on the shelf. I see hands go up. I've done them too. I thought, man, this was awesome. We executed it right under budget. Here you go. They're like, we've moved on to something sweeter. I'm like, what are you talking about? This was great. Because I never asked the question, is this what you really need? So much waste, unsustainable. But it goes more. Will the benefits be realized? And then, what's the end of life? Where does this guy go? 20 seconds of enjoyment? Lifetime in the garbage, lifetime in the ground. Just the reality we live in. Downcycle it. into Madras, India, into a landfill, trust me. That thing does not get turned back into a plastic bottle. I followed it all the way to India. So we have to evolve. We have to start thinking, and I know the Pinbox 6 benefits realization, read it, it's amazing, it's wonderful. So we have to start thinking about this, seriously. Adoption, benefits realization, end of life, but think about a life cycle. How many life cycles are linear? The word cycle is not flat. Cycles are round. So naturally, pre-project, that's round, but closing, adoption, end of life, back to pre-project. So projects are round. They're cyclical in nature, right? They lead to more projects. So 2 years ago, I had the pleasure of attending a UN Global Compact Leadership Summit, where outgoing director Georg Kell sat not more than 10 feet from me. And because he was outgoing, he was very verbose in his declarations, and he said, I guarantee that within 4 years, the marketplace, the global marketplace, will have changed because sustainability will be realized. And then he almost talked about project management. I was like going, ooh, because I've always been advocating in there for projects. He said, finally, asset managers are waking up to the fact that sustainability pays off. Now, who delivers assets? We do, right? So if they're realizing that it pays off, that means we have to realize that we're delivering sustainable assets, right? So how do we do that? How do we do that? We have to figure out how to adopt sustainable methods into our project delivery practices, into our processes. I'll get to that here in just a moment. Because the world that we're working in has changed. 30% of our global GDP is project work. Did you know that? 33 trillion US dollars is project work. It's amazing, isn't it? In some countries like Germany, it's like 46%. And it's growing. Millennials are the ones driving it up. As our workforce changes, they want to work on project teams. They don't want to sit in an office like Jim was talking about. They want to sit there with their legs crossed, working on laptops, working on working on PDAs things. The workforce is changing. But the problem is, every year in August, and it's becoming sooner and sooner, we're using more resources. So this month, actually a few days ago, was Earth Overshoot Day, by which we've consumed enough resources for the entire year. So every year we're using 1.6 Earths worth of resources. The problem is, we've only got one planet. So what are we going to do? If 30% of global GDP is project work, we're using this much resources, where's the bottleneck, people? And who controls the resources? Project managers, right? Am I right? Yeah. So if we become superheroes, then we fix the problem, right? Right. Now, we're all taught from day one, time, cost, scope is what? Triple constraint, also called the iron triangle, right? Now, a really neat guy named Martin Barnes thought up this idea on the back of a paper napkin in a pub, as all things should be. And he was telling a story about the creation of this, and it always looks goofy on a big screen. It always looks nice on my laptop. Anyway, he said, the iron triangle is a neat concept, and he got it wrong. He said it should be time, cost, scope equals performance. Here's an example. If a person needs a heart transplant, and I think, David, you were in the room when he shared this, right? Where's David Pells? You were in Crete, right? Yeah. He said if you go into a hospital for heart transplant, and the surgeon says, if you come into on a Tuesday, I'm going to open you up, I'm going to rip out your heart, I'm going to smack in a new one, sew you back up, charge you $1 million. you've established time, cost, scope, right? So, patient comes in, cuts them open, rips out the heart, slaps in a new one, sews them back up, charges $1 million, patient leaves. I know it's much more complicated than that in reality, but you get the point. Now, patient 2 days later falls over dead. Was that project quality? Yes, it was. According to this, it was. But in reality, did not perform. So what's needed? A paradigm shift. Buzzwords, paradigm shift. So what we need is something more like this. Ooh, this is scary. Ooh. Now, I showed this slide in Portugal. Every camera went up. What is this guy talking about? What is this guy's problem? He can't change our models. Oh, he must be the devil. Ask my wife, she'll probably agree with you. Do not record that. Okay, so here's what I'm talking about. Time, cost, scope are the cornerstones. Not going to disagree with that. But risk, value, benefits, those also must be paramount to ensure that performance and quality are there. Then environmental impacts are also considered. Societal impacts are also considered. Economic impacts are also considered. But also, how you go about it. What are your processes? And what are your outcomes? What products and services are you creating? Meaning, are they beneficial? This should be the focus. Because you've all signed this, haven't you? Look at the bottom in red. Go ahead and read it. Make decisions and take actions based on the best interests of society, public safety, and the environment. Ta-da! The PMI Code of Ethics. Show a high regard for ourselves, others, and resources entrusted to us, including people, money, reputation, safety of others, and natural environmental resources. So, my friends, if you take into account these aspects, you are therefore accounting for your own code of conduct. Yay! No one's going like hooray, or I don't want to see ticker tape or streamers. Come on. Okay, fine. Anyway, you see my point here, right? Does it make sense? Okay, good. Now, harmonizing with competence. Let's talk about some free stuff. Yay? Okay. Now, I have to say this. So this is the ICB. The ICB is the IPMA International Competence Baseline. Sorry, Individual Competence Baseline. This is sort of our PMBOK guide, if you're going to compare, but it's really not. So, and the best way I can explain the difference between IPMA and PMI is, if PMI goes like this, we go like this. It's the same stuff, guys, just looked at a slightly different way. So we're all friends. Now, the ICB is available to you for free at this website, on our website, ipma-usa.org/ICB4. Download it, use it, share it with your friends, or not. It's up to you. It's a PDF, and it's a lot of fun. Now, what you see here, we call the Eye of Competence. Does this look familiar? Looks like Talent Triangle, doesn't it? It's been around since '96. Anyway, moving on. So in the ICB4, we talk about strategy, right? So organizational strategy. Now, from a knowledge perspective, strategy is important. Now, we talked earlier about organizational strategy and sustainability, how it's so important. Well, in ICB4, we talk about sustainability principles. Now, these SDGs are part and parcel with those principles. So we say that PMs need to understand what these principles are, because CEOs and executives are demanding that they get embedded into organizational practice. And so as a PM, you must know what they are, so that way when they come in through requirements or for objectives, that you can say, oh, okay, gotcha, I'm on it. So, for example, law, regulations, systems involved, regulations, but principles. So Here are the principles. I know because I wrote them. So, commitment and accountability. Simple. Ethics and decision making. Integrated and transparent. Principle and value based. This isn't hard stuff. It's just doing the right things the right way for the right reason, right? Social and ecological equity. Taking that into account. Economic prosperity. Okay? And then there's the PEB, which is also available for free for download on our website /PEB. Now, this is neat, and it's unique, because every year we have awards, and from those awards, we gather the case studies, and we develop a standard based on the outcomes, saying, what do great projects look like? And how are they similar, how are they different? Let's develop a standard based on what great projects do. And so we've taken them all, ripped them apart, put them under the microscope, and created the PEB. And so the PEB gives some great modeling, great examples. So again, it's free, as y'all are. It's awesome, yay, awesome, and based on projects. Here's what it looks like. And the PEB has sustainability at the core of it, which is unique for a PM standard. It puts people and purpose as one domain. It puts processes and resources as another, and project results and outcomes as another. So I suggest you have time this afternoon or tonight to go and take a look, download it, and go through it. It's not a really difficult read, but it'll bring great value to your projects. It's really nice. Okay. Now, in harmonization with the SDGs, here's how it works. You have the organization, and I apologize for the European spelling. I couldn't get them to change it. I tried. Crazies. So, the SDGs. This is how it all comes together. Nature, society, economy, legislation, science, technology. Those are the SDGs, all wrapped up into the organization's external context. So the UN, whoever comes up with the SDGs, we look at that as the external context. The organization's commitment, so senior level leadership says, hey, this is important to us, this is what society's saying, this is what consumers are saying, investors are saying, we're going to do this. We're going to integrate it into our strategy, and then things roll downhill to us, right? You, the PM. Pow. That's how it all works together. Does it work? Does it make a difference? You all recognize New Balance, right? Good shoe company. Made in the USA, well, some of it. 3 years ago, New Balance came to me and said, we want to get from $3 billion a year to $5 billion a year. And I said, how are you going to do that? He said, we're going to make better products. I'm like, how did that work for you in the past? Well, you know, it's worked in the past. I said, okay. Well, let's take a look at some of your stats. So let's see. According to the research that I put together, public opinion says that according to your sustainability, you get like a grade of, like, say, D from an A to F scale. They go, well, why? Well, because you don't report anything, you don't share anything, so people assume that you're not doing anything. Well, that's not true. We have this great academy. We have some things we're doing. Well, like what? Well, I don't know. So I said, well, let's get together. So did some training, did a few things, and they got together with Nike, Adidas, Puma, and a few others, and came up with this great project called the Roadmap to Zero. So zero discharge of hazardous chemicals. And their goal was to share enough IP to do common good without giving away the secret sauce. To build a platform for action and partnership, yet to allow them to keep their own identity, yet working for the common good. And then that's what that whole 2015 engagement architecture is all about. It's about platforms for action and partnership, using the SDGs as a tool without having to give away what makes you really you. And as a team, as a think tank, they were able to work together to start eliminating all toxic chemicals from all clothing, which is amazing. And so utilizing the SDGs, well, at that time, the MDGs, they're able to use it in a project to start creating positive good, which is amazing. And so they do work, they do create value, and because of that, it brings their image up. Consumers look at that and they go, wow, I think that's amazing. I believe in this company now. It raises their value, and it helps them get to where they want to go. So as a project manager, if you understand this, if you understand what these SDGs are, and you're able to mix those into your projects and say, we can do more, we can do much more, then value is more than just initiate to close, and it's more than just stakeholder management. It's more than just inputs, outputs, and outcomes. It's value based on what society needs. It's what the environment needs. It's what we need. It's what we need as humanity. Then that's what project management is going to go, because that's what we have to do. If these guys can do it, we can all do it. Do you agree? The question you have to ask yourself is, how do these relate to your projects? Thank you. Any questions?
In your rendition of the iron triangle, which added at least 9 other variables, so for a total of 12 KPIs, where do you find the scalability for projects? Or do you need to focus on all 12 of those constraints or KPIs for every project? What is your kind of takeaway from that?
So you have to take a look at the impacts, right? So, and we have a method that you can actually use to measure those. So you have to take a look at it from a hierarchical perspective. So project, then you have process, product, and then you have impacts. So you take a look at the social, environmental, and economic impacts, and then you can break it down further from there. And then you can look at it from a time, a cost, a scope perspective, but they're all 3 individuals, so you can then measure those. And you can take either a numerical or what have you, but it has to be based on what's important in the project. Right? Does that help?
Yes, I guess you would scale the rigor with the association with the project.
Right.
Since currently most corporate enterprises do not view project management as a business function at the executive level and limit based upon the power politics within the company, information technology, et cetera, how things are going to get done and what a project management organization or a project manager is going to be allowed to do. How do you get the sustainability out of the project manager if he's not given the tools by the corporation to do it?
That's a great question. And the first thing to find out is, and this is actually in the PMBOK guide, I believe, it's a project manager's responsibility to understand what corporate strategy is, and it's the PMO's responsibility to tell them what that is. If they don't, it's your responsibility to go find out what it is. If the organization doesn't let you know what it is, then I'm contradicting myself here, aren't I? Yes, I am. I do it all the time. I'm really great at it. So find out what it is and find out how you can embed it in the project yourself. The biggest trick is selling it up the ladder into the project, but the first time you do it and you're able to concretely show the value, your sponsor is going to go, this is amazing, because it's very easy to show the value. The trick is finding out where it fits in the first time. But once you do it, and I can show you a tool offline of how to do that. I didn't have time for it today, but there's a tool you can actually use to do that.
Okay, so I want to piggyback off of the gentleman's question. I'm over here.
Hello.
So a lot of us live the same situation that the gentleman just exposed. But personally, some of us have introduced what we call baby steps, as we're always mentored to do in organizations that are not mature enough within the project management governance. So one of the methodologies that, I've introduced when I've been challenged is starting from my stakeholder, educating the stakeholder that I have to create credibility with. And I've introduced not only the triple constraints, but critical success factors. So did we really meet successfully? Did we deliver successfully? Are we impacting, in my area, healthcare? Are we saving lives in the way that we're executing? So you work kind of like you do reverse engineering, if you will. That's a methodology that I've found works.
Yeah.
Takes longer.
Yeah, I mean, you have to work backwards and think, what is long-term impact? And what is the overall goal? Is it to finish a project, or is it to actually do something and see benefits? I mean, benefits realization is the goal of any project. I mean, executives don't care about projects, they care about results. And we have to focus on the results, right?
Yeah, I think that as a project managers, we really need to start talking the business language. Because if you go just and ask for money for projects, you will never get that. I mean, I have a colleague that was pushing to get a project. It was only 50,000 euros. It was to supposedly update some collections management systems to reduce the number of days of bill pays, but he was just pushing, I need 50,000 euros. When they passed me the project, I started looking how much money could the company get back for every day of delays, and it turned out it was for the Americas region, so it was like around 50 million euros for every day of delay. So if we can reduce 1 day, you can have 50 million cash back to your bank. So when this case was presented to the executive, they said, well, we can get 50 million euros for 50,000 euros, go ahead and do it. So it's really, we need to start getting more business acumen on where we are working and what we are doing so we can present that benefit.
Yeah, I agree, and I think PMI is moving in that direction. I think with the addition of business analysis, and with the changes in PIM Box 6, with business benefits realization, it's huge. And I'll tell you a quick little anecdote. My son is going to first grade, and first day of parent orientation, they go, "Oh, we'd love to have parents come in and share their professions and what they do." And I said, "Oh, great." And I said, "I'd like to come in and give a talk." And they go, "Oh, what do you do?" "Project management." And so this dad comes up, "Well, I'm a firefighter." And all the moms are like, "Ooh." And I'm like, "Oh, that stinks." And one mom's like, "Oh, I wrote a children's book." They go, "Oh, that'd be great." I'm like, "I wrote a book." They go, "Oh, well, project management." They're like, "Oh." That's not fair. I did hard work. But, it's true. We're about change. And we deliver change. And we have to be proud of that. And so we do speak business speak, but oftentimes it's more like dolphins. We have to speak more like the business speak. So, but yeah. But I think, though, that if you're able to understand, and I encourage you, go out and learn about these SDGs and how they relate to your project. You'll find there's a lot of correlation. But it's expanding beyond just the initial project and how it relates to the overall business goal. And you'll find that it relates to a much larger framework of how projects from a micro level interconnect and relate to each other on a macro level. And how from a global scale, we can come together as 20 million project practitioners around the world can have a major impact. The old adage of one drop in the ocean can make a big ripple, or one butterfly flapping its wings can cause a tsunami and whatever. But the reality is, we can have a major impact. And we have no choice. We have to do it.
You had a slide that showed like 1.6 Earths being consumed, moving towards 2.0.
Yeah.
Can you break that math down a little bit?
Break it down. Back it up. Yep, right there. So it's called Earth Overshoot Day, and you can take a look at it. It's footprintnetwork.org, and it's every year, and it's getting shorter. So in 2014, it was August 19th. This year, it's August 8th. So every year, we're consuming Earth's resources faster and faster. That's a problem because we have one planet. How? Globalization. So the Earth cannot replenish itself at the rate from which we are actually consuming it. Yes, yes. Yeah.
I have a question.
Who said that?
Here.
Okay. Yes, I see you.
Yeah.
I can see you.
Can you?
Yes, I can. Hello.
So apart from the fact that certain organizations may not be mature enough in the project management area, but other than that, would you be able to share like what could be those instances or challenges where it's difficult for PMs to incorporate the SDGs into their individual projects? I mean, any other instance other than the organization not having the maturity? I mean,
The organization wants to make money, right?
yep.
That's the only thing you need to know. Organizations that adopt sustainability, on average, are 30% more profitable on a global scale. Any CEO you talk to and say, do you like to make money? And they say, no, quit your job today. And Google it. Say, if you walk in and say, hey, I'm doing a project and I'd like to incorporate a little bit of sustainability, they'll go, no, quit your job and call me. It's that simple. And there are tools out there, and you can Google sustainability and project management tools. They're out there. And I've done a few of them, but they're very easy to use, they're not complicated, and they do show high value.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody disagree, say this is craziness? It's okay. No? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you for a
Thank you.
very, very thought-provoking presentation. At
That's
least
what I
I
do.
thought so.
Thank you.
And it really made me start thinking about things, even my old gray hair. Because I lived through a lot of the stuff leading up to where we probably contributed to it. But anyhow, we appreciate it very much, and that's very thought-provoking. And have a great rest of your stay here. Thank you. Okay. Oh, that's yours.
Yep. Take my ball and go home, y'all.
Okay, this is the last time we come together, and I want to personally thank you for being here for our 10th symposium and participating, and I hope you have a great afternoon and a safe trip home. Thank you. Au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen. Ciao, or whatever. Okay.